All right, it's a new day. It's time to get started on making some more videos here. My opinion, I don't really feel like I am hitting my quota on these videos as far as how many I would like to make, especially since there's so much content to go through for C++. But it's because of a couple things. I mean, I get distracted with other things, and I also have other things I got to do, which I'm sure everybody can understand that because we all have things we got to do on a daily basis. Some days are busier than others, but so it happens. We do the best we can, and we just try to keep pushing forward. Anyways, let's get started on this video here. I have been sharing my journey of learning C++ discoveries, things that I've found, learned, trying to understand C++ so I can write programs of my own, uh, allow my imagination, creativity to uh, go wild with whatever I decide I want to create. I realized I had a really good imagination and creativity that a lot of people didn't understand. I'm sure that happens with a lot of people. Uh, I think that this is between music. I was doing music for a while there, but I think this is actually more of a better way of allowing that to happen. So let's pick up where we started from on the last video here. Like normal, we got W3 Schools on the right side and VS Code on the left side, which is a text editor. We left off with C++ multi-level inheritance. We learned in the last video about inheritance, about how you can create one class and then create a secondary class that is more of considered a child of the primary class or parent class. Other words that they use and stuff is a base class and a derived class, and how to kind of set that up using creating a new class and then putting a colon right there to indicate that the derived class or child class has access to the parent class or base class, and what part. Having the public in there and stuff indicates what part it has access to, and then giving the class name and stuff as to which class it is derived from. So, in this video, I guess we're going to go through multi-level inheritance, figure out what this is, and see if we can't learn a little bit more today. So a class can also be derived from one class which is already derived from another class. So that's kind of the idea of multi-level inheritance, where you have the base class, the derived class, and then maybe another class after that that kind of the bottom class or three classes and stuff to where the lowest class has access to the above class, and then which also has access to the top class. So therefore the three different classes in the lowest class actually has access to the base class through the derived class, I guess. That's kind of my understanding of it. So let's learn about it here. In the following example, my grandchild is derived from my child, which is derived from my class. So it looks like we're going to have three different classes here. Let's go ahead and get this example put in. I think we can keep this class for sure, clear up to this point right here. Change the name of the base class, or the parent class, to my class. It is set to public in the example. Looks like we're going to have a void function here. Give it in the variable or name my function. Set it with no parameters currently. Some curly brackets with some code inside, standard output, and some content to be put into the, or output to the terminal. Some content Oh, that's actually just what I said. I didn't realize I was going to be typing it in there. Okay, so some content in parent class. All right, and then we have the derived class. Actually, let's go ahead and add to these comments here. Parent class, parent, and then uh, child class. So your base class, and I don't know why we have multiple names for the same thing, but base class or parent class, I'm going to go and put that in there too. Um, Not so much of a parent class, but just a parent, I guess. So yeah, let's go and take that back out. Parent. Um, yeah. So base class or parent of other classes in this example. So we get the derived class, which is child of parent. Yeah, parent class. And we can say that because of the syntax right here we have, which we've got to rename this to my class. And then we're going to also change the name for the example. This is going to also be my child. So we got class my child, which is a child class of my class or derived class. And the code we have in here for this, actually it doesn't look like we're going to have any code in this. So we're going to clear all this out right here. So this may more than just be syntax and stuff to kind of show you how this works, or show me how this works, I should say. But then we have after that, so let's go ahead and put in a comment that this would be code for the child class, which would have access to the parent class, my class. That's a lot. Okay, so code here, which can access my class public. Public section of my class. There we go. Public part of my class. Okay. And then we're going to have another derived class. This one would be more known as the grandchild. So it's kind of like inheriting genes off of your parents, or your grandchildren are inheriting genes off of you or your children, same way. Grandchild of child class. And then the code for this, so we're going to create another class here. My grandchild with a colon, and it's going to have access to the public part of my child. And then curly brackets, code here, which can access public part of my class. I want to go ahead and add in there that this inherently has access. Okay, so this, and you gotta look up where to see how to spell this. Inherently has access to uh, base class slash parent. Okay, and then obviously a semicolon there to end that. And in the main, the only thing we're really doing, I think, in this code is probably printing out that right there. But let's see here. Let's go ahead and clear out this code here because we won't be using it from the main. And we're going to be creating my grandchild and creating an object for that class. To be more specific, creating an object for that a derived class. And then my object dot my function. Okay. So as you can tell and stuff, you got the base class, derived class, another derived class. In other words and stuff, because these both have the same kind of name to them as a derived class. To be more specific, we got the parent class, the child class, and the grandchild class. I guess you can keep going with that if you wanted to. How this code would be used for, where you would use it and stuff, we don't have specifics on that yet. I think we'd have to better understand this or better understand what we would be doing with code in order to get a full grasp of this right here, and how that would work. Probably examples would teach me the best. Um, Without examples and stuff, though, I'd have to get really creative, use my imagination, and eventually probably I will. Those videos and stuff will probably take a little bit longer because I'm going to have to really search my mind and stuff for what I'm going to have to put in here for this. But in this case, this example right here, we are creating an object for grandchild right here, um, which in sense, any code that's in here automatically has access to this code right here, which has access to this code up here. There's one thing I see in this example, in my opinion, that's wrong, but we'll get to that here in a minute. And I'm not sure if this code even works, how it works because of this. So we created an object, and then we're going to use the object from my grandchild to access the my function or the function in the parent class or the base class right here to print out that right there. As you know, we are creating a object right here, but we're also calling it right there. In this case and stuff, we're not just calling the class, but we're actually accessing the function. So let's go ahead and save this and run this code real quick. And there's the content. Excuse me. Now, this is the question I have. I'm going to clear that out. I'm going to go get rid of this comment down here below. We don't need it anymore right now. Here's the question I have. So, one thing we read about classes is that by default, a class is set to private. So, I want to know how my grandchild has access to my child if by default my child is private. I mean, this has only got access to the public side, right? Well, if you don't have public in there per the example and stuff, then how does it have access to this? But I guess, I mean, by default it is private, but it could also have public in it, so I guess that would work in some way. Thinking there's both a public and a private, whether you put it in there or not. So that would be kind of something you would think of as underneath the layers. Uh, my grandchild has a private sector and a public sector both. But when you declare something as private or public, you are labeling that information or that data for that specific area of my class. If that makes sense. And I'm trying to just understand it, so that may not make any sense whatsoever, and that may be very confusing. But to me, It's still a puzzle piece I'm trying to fit into here, and it just better explanation and stuff would be a helpful tool. Like I said, by default, a class is set to private, but underneath the layers, does it have both private and public sectors in it? And they're just, since there's no code in it, we're not labeling which sector it is. If we just put code in here, I assume that it would be automatically set to private, but there's also maybe a public sector of it too that just we don't see because we didn't type it in there, sort of thing. Um, Obviously, that's the case and stuff. If we change this right here to private, this to private, it would access the private section of this, which would then probably try to access the private section of this. And since we don't actually have anything up here in a private section, it wouldn't do nothing. We would have to actually change this to private in order for it to access this function, I assume. But that's just an assumption, and like I've said many times before, when you make an assumption, you are thinking you are correct on one thing, and you may not be. And until you find the real true answer to that or the truth behind it and stuff, you're actually setting yourself up for failure in that case. And that's I've done that so many times in my life and stuff to where I've assumed something, come to find out I was wrong, and my guess or choice in life was based on that assumption, and my assumption was wrong, and therefore I made a bad decision in life. Without the facts, it's really hard to make a knowledge-based guess, an accurate guess or choice. Anyways, moving on. Oh, that is pretty much all of it. So there's not a lot of information on that. We did cover a little bit more on this and stuff, so maybe the thought of what was covered on this right here is pretty much generally the same for this, which I assume it is. If we had instead of a function in here, we had a constructor in here and stuff, that I assume we'd have access to that same constructor in both of these as long as these both were set to the right access specifier, the correct access specifier. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next part here. I think we're gonna start working on cutting the videos a little shorter, even yet. That way they're not so long. I may go back and stuff when I go through this material a third time if I need to go through it a third time, and I probably will. I mean, because it just helps solidify the knowledge in it. But which in that may be a month or two from now before I go back through all this information on this website here, because I've got another sources I still got to go through too as well. But maybe when I go through this and stuff, I'll try to keep the videos under 20 minutes long each, to where I have pretty much every single section of this content. Why is it not scrolling? There we go. Oh, I wasn't going to scroll because it was at the top. To where every single section of this right here is in its own video. To where I don't have any hour-long videos anymore. They're all 30 minutes or less, preferably 20 minutes or less, but sometimes they can run into longer than that. But yes, our next video and stuff, which I'll make here in just a minute, I think we'll get started in multi-inheritance. The first one was multi-level inheritance. This one will be multi-inheritance. I'm going to guess, and like I said, I don't like assumptions, but until I read this content, I won't know for sure, and this shouldn't hurt me at all to make this assumption, but I'm going to guess multi-inheritance is something where you have either multiple things in the parent class, and the child class or any derived classes and stuff would have access to all those inheritance, or maybe something like that. But we'll wait until next video and get into that. I mean, I know you can see it right here and stuff, but yeah. Like I've said before, I'm not really trying to educate anybody. I'm just sharing my journey with everybody. If there's anything I say wrong and stuff, or any corrections anybody wants to make, you can leave them in the comment. If you like the videos, you can click the like button. If you have any questions or any comments, leave them in the comments as well. I will try to get to them. I don't always get to them, but yeah, for now, I think that'll be it for this video, and I'll catch you on the next video.